Good evening. Here for the Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting of May 13th. You could please rise for a moment of silence. Join us in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mendoza, would you like to call roll, please?
Member Cleveland.
Here.
Member Jones.
Yes, here.
Member Mayor is absent today. And Member Rep.
Here. Sir, we've got next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the April 8th BZA minutes. Do I have any review on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there support?
I second the motion.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Mendoza, you call roll.
Member Jones.
Yes,
Member Raffin.
Yes.
And Member Hemingway.
Yes. Minutes have been approved. Next on the agenda is preliminary hearings. There are none. We do have on to public hearings. Currently, BZA 25-002 did not meet the public requirements, so we will pass on that. On to BZA 25-003 developmental standard variance for Jim Glassdock of TWG Group representing school town of Munster, requesting a variance for section 26-6, period 405. And the parking lot landscape standard table 26-6.502 and E public lighting head types section 26-6.405 Q2 pole height for section 26-6.405 Q 3C color temperature at 8823 Columbia Avenue. Mr. Mendoza, you'd like to enlighten us on that?
Sure. So the location of the proposed project is located at the corner of Columbia and 35th Avenue, which is 35th Street. They are proposing the school town of Munster is proposing a parking lot. It's about 120 by 321 with about 102 parking spaces. With the landscaping, lighting, new lighting, and the expansion of the existing storage facility that they have on site. However, what is occurring currently with the site is they're seeking variances for the head type, for the new lighting, as well as a variance for the parking lot landscape requirements. So this is their current landscape or the most recent landscape proposal. They are buffering the entire parking lot to along 35th as well as Columbia. They're also proposing landscape buffer along the residential property with a 6-foot fence. They are also, the ordinance requires landscape islands at the end of parking rows as well as every 10 parking spaces. They're seeking a variance from that. They would not like to install the parking islands on the end of the parking row as well as every 10 spaces. They're also seeking a variance from the head type. This is currently what is being proposed. It is restricted or prohibited under the current zoning code. What is permitted is a coach 8-corner colonial type head. They are requesting, these are locations of the head type lights they're proposing. Some of them are various heights, in particular just one actually. Is the one down here is farther than 20 feet. So the asking the variance for that is essentially say field lights, targeted towards the whole in there with landing pages. They're also proposing these other lights here that are sensor, but they're identified as a different type of classification of headlights. And then along the trail or walkway that they're proposing that leads to the proposed parking lot, and they're proposing 4 parking lot lights. Essentially, they are trying to keep the parking lot as clear as possible for extracurricular activities, as well as use it for parking for events and whatever their plans are. So that's why they're asking for the variance. These variants.
Thank you. Were there any questions from Mr. Mendoza before we open the hearing? Hearing none, at this point, we're opening the public hearing for BZA developmental standards. Do you have anything for the partitioner to care to comment on anything? Full time?
Here, so you
You
hear me.
could state your name, address, and who you represent.
Yeah, Morgan Nolan, principal of Munster High School. I live here in the community, 9749 Whitehall Garden, Munster, Indiana. We're asking for these variances on this additional parking space within our John Friend Athletic Complex. The big thing with the variances, with the removal of the islands, would give us the opportunity to use that for marching band is a big point for us. The islands would be in the way for us to paint a mock field on there for them to do some marching, like directly after school, as we're limited in our field space on campus. This would allow the marching band on a daily basis, if they need to, start practicing on a hard surface that mocks up a football field, and then they can easily transfer to a football field as practices or events kind of cycle through in the evenings. It's going to make this parking lot, I think, a little bit more usable for us with some of those extracurricular events. The lighting variances from our architect have really come into play just to suit that area. We're trying to minimize light or any bouncing light going into the houses and the neighbors in that area. We know that's a concern for them. So we're looking at some lighting options that can help reduce that and really just target that area that we need. Some of the other lighting additions or changes there, as noted, one of them is to kind of shine some light in the evenings to our batting and bullpen area. On the home side of the bleachers, that's an unlit area right now, so it's kind of unusable when the sun goes down. So we need some additional lighting in there just for safety. And then the additional walkaway lighting is just illuminate for pedestrians as they come in through our sportsplex facility there. But the big request with the island variances removed gives us some more flexibility to use that space as like a mock football field for like our marching band needs.
Currently, where is the marching band?
Unfortunately for our marching band, they get demoted usually in the evening hours to the football field or the practice field, which is the practice field's closer to the homes. This is going to keep it closer to the street side. So they have to practice usually late in the evenings as our, sports teams kind of get priority there. This would allow them to practice directly after school or earlier in the evenings and get out and get off the campus a little bit sooner. So right now they're starting at 5:30, 6 o'clock, depending on athletic events that are taking place. This would allow them to start closer to after school times at 3 o'clock and get off campus so that they're not making noise for the neighbors.
Do you have any questions?
All right, Mr. Nolan.
Good.
I assume this lot will be used for overflow parking for big events.
Yep.
Swimming was always a challenge
Yep.
over the years and
Yep.
parking all over the place.
Yep.
A needed addition to the campus with overflow parking.
Yeah, if anybody's been around our campus, parking is limited, especially for some of our big, large weekend events, but even, Friday night football games, baseball games, soccer matches. We're unique in Northwest Indiana in the state where both our middle school and high school use the same athletic outdoor facilities. We don't have a spillover athletic facility for our middle school. And that's really, really unique in Northwest Indiana. So this campus is getting used all the time for a lot of students and a lot of community events, and parking is pretty limited, especially as the town and the school is looking to expand some of the on-campus amenities that we have, we might lose some parking with those expansions. So we're trying to make sure we plan for the future. If we lose some parking spaces, we're gaining some as we plan, these upgrades to our facilities.
Thank you.
I understand this will not be used for student parking, is that correct?
We're not planning to use it for student parking, just with the proximity and the traffic issues on Columbia as we speak. We have contracted with with DLA to do some traffic analysis that's been approved through the town process that we completed a couple months ago. We're waiting on a report for that. And we're taking into analysis of some other traffic improvements on the campus side, the school building sides to help alleviate some of those traffic issues. But initially, having 100 kids parked there during the day and then trying to walk across the street is not feasible at this point in time. But I can't say in 10 years that we won't look at that if we eliminate some of the traffic issues. But it is close to a light. It's a safe crossing zone relative to some of the other areas on Columbia. But really it would be more for like those extracurricular events and the weekend events that we have on campus.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just had a question for a civil engineering team. Look, these, come on up here. Same thing, state name, address for record.
My name is Jim Glasgow. I'm the principal in charge of civil engineering with the WT Group. Our address is 2675 Pradham Avenue in Hoffman Estates, Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Glasgow. I just want to make sure we get a discussion over the last couple of months that civil engineering issues been addressed regarding drainage and those items, with the residents behind there. I was also curious, I was looking through the drawing and I didn't, nothing jumped out to me in your light pole base. I see a diameter, how deep in the ground are you? Base?
Typically, I think about 6 feet in the ground.
Do you have a cut sheet on any of those or?
I think it's in the plans. We may not have submitted that sheet as part of this application, but that is part of our electrical submittal.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody from the public would like to come up to the podium, state your name and address?
President, you officially opening the public hearing then?
Yes. Hearing is open.
I'm John Grolczyk, 1144 35th Street, just east of this conglomeration that you guys are proposing. And they keep on calling these landscape islands. They're not landscape islands, they're safety islands. And there's a reason for those safety islands for traffic in the parking lots. The band is definitely, they talk about, they're gonna get priority, during the times when the parking lot is not being used. But where are they gonna practice then? And why don't they just stay there? And you've got the west end of the property that's owned by the Munster. They should look into developing that area over there versus right next door to my house. Because, there's times when my son works midnights, has to sleep during those times, and the band playing is gonna really disrupt his sleep. So, you're talking about doing this rec center. I'd rather see the rec center there and put the parking lot across the street where the tennis courts are at, and it won't be so close to my house. You could take that rec center, put bleachers on top of it, make it Wrigleyville, and, you could look down on the baseball field. But, that's something that should be looked into versus disrupting my family and having a band next door. I don't have any objections to the parking lot, but I do have objections to a band playing next door. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Laura Lynn Koralchek. I live at 1144 35th Street, Munster, and I'm next to your field as well. It was pretty loud with the soccer over there. And now I'm not looking forward to having a parking lot with a band playing into my house. I'm closer than the houses at the other end who have the band. And I mean, I'm very close. It is not appropriate to decide a band is going to blast into the side of my house 5-6 days a week. And as my husband said, with people needing to sleep. But mostly, and then the same measure playing over and over and tick, 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 tick. It's just not a nice thing for you to do to us. Okay. And Mr. Nolan said it's only gonna be, it would be possibly every day. And what's that next to their house every day? Not me. And I'm really strongly opposed to the ban. And I'm not even thrilled with the parking lot. It's idling vehicles, especially buses, are next to my house, idling and filling my air with, you know, pollution. I'm gonna be complaining. If the bus drivers don't turn off their buses. I've lived here about 14 years. No, they don't. Okay. If this happens, I would like resident-only parking signs to be put in front of the houses on 35th so that we can still park there. But often, my neighbor, who's just one house farther over, can't even get in and out of her driveway at the beginning and end of the school day because of the people parking Tallywhacker all over the place. I'm gone by then to work, and I don't get home to see it, but she did inform me that often her driveway is even blocked by people and she can't get in and out. So we would like residents only parking signs for our side of 35th at least, please. There's already no parking signs on the opposite side that the church somehow got years ago. He stated that the students would not park there yet, or at this time, I think he said. I don't know, but it sounded like it could change and become a student parking area in the future. What has to be done for that change to happen? Because he hasn't promised they won't be parking there. But he inferred that they would not be parking there. How will we know that's going to change? Anybody? Will there have to be a vote? Will there have to be a letter that we have to sign? You're asking for a lot more congestion at our homes. And we're a busy street already. Will this parking lot have priority for parking events or for the band? I'd like to know that. He said that the band could use that parking lot, they could start earlier. What time does that mean they will end? Because I know sometimes they go till 10 o'clock at night. Or real close to 10 o'clock at night at the other end. How long are their practices? Do we know that? Can we know that? Can it be like a rule, a set standard?
I know my daughter had participated in band and their hour, anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's normal.
But I don't know why I've heard them out there so late at night, because I often wonder how they get their homework done. Since I'm a teacher, and it's kind of, when do they do their homework?
If I understand correctly, it does sound, and I live right there as well, it does sound as if they have this space in which to practice, they will be done earlier and you won't have that late into the night.
And do we have a guarantee of that?
No, but it allows them a space that they did not have before.
And they're gonna push all their stuff across the street and down and all those percussion instruments and all that every day? Crossing the street back and forth? Yes, they do that now. You're right.
They do.
But they do it. They don't have to come all the way to 35th now. I mean, I don't know, you got a lot of casters to replace the casters, I don't know. Okay.
Can I ask what year you moved into your house over? I'm just curious.
What year did we move in?
What year did you move in? I'm just curious.
2009?
2009, okay. I built right across the street from a park in 2001. I knew a park was there. I knew there was gonna be traffic there. I knew that 200 football players were gonna use Munster Park, Warner's gonna use it, and I knew there was gonna be traffic there. So I'm sympathetic to your, traffic on your street, but the street is for everyone's use, whether it's parking or not. I have troubles getting out of my driveway right in cobblestones because I have Little League there. I have Munster Park Warner there. I have now Munster Lacrosse there, as well as youth baseball and also soccer. But I also built there knowing that there was a park and there was going to be congestion, and I'm a part of the community and I want the community to thrive, and I want kids at parks and I want kids at schools. And that's important. It's because we have a strong community. So sometimes we all have this not in my backyard mentality, but what's the greater good? The greater good is making sure our facilities are good in Munster, that we have kids using this instead of out on the street. Still, instead of everyone coming up here and saying, oh, because it's in my backyard, you can't be here, but the school's been here since 1960 something.
I went there.
Okay, I'm just pointing out some obvious facts, and that's where I get a lot.
You wanted to play the band into the side of your house?
I have kids yelling and playing music at Cobblestone Park every night. You can come out there right now, and my street in Treadway Avenue is packed with people. And yet, once again, I moved there, built the house there, knowing that there was gonna be a park there and there was gonna be kids there. And I was hoping it was gonna be active because that's what a good community does.
Well, I didn't mind soccer. It was loud, sometimes inappropriate music, but it wasn't a parking lot. And I didn't know that a soccer field would become a parking lot. Okay,
School owns the land, right? And no different than a business that community hospital wants to add a parking lot. There's needs that change. There's needs, school needs at certain times. And they also control the land. So it's
Okay.
not a parking lot.
Can I ask about how I will see the vehicles coming down the street with all those trees? When I'm backing out of my driveway?
Trees are, I don't think there's trees on your parkway, is there? I think
They're
trees are
planning on putting
parked on the
buffer
street.
trees all along there.
Along,
I know it's, I don't, is it in the fence? It's outside the fence? It's on the other side of the sidewalk, yes. So,
But there's also an apron there with one, and the civil engineer, Mr. Glasscock, can address the line of sight. But
would you like to come to my driveway? Because it's tough now. Because you're watching for kids on the sidewalks, watching behind you in your camera. And I've got 3 trees, my 2 and yours, which could often use some attention. Your tree, so I take care of it. But it's already hard to see. So all those trees are gonna make it so that you're gonna have some accidents, and I don't want to be that accident, okay? So I'm not sure I'm thrilled with the trees and the noise from the band. And I hear what you're saying, sir, but I'm not happy about it because my house is like right there.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Anyone else?
Will any of those answers to those questions be available in the future? Did anyone write any of them down besides me?
I made
Thank you,
notes.
Jordan.
Okay. I'd really like to know what time the band's gonna end.
we do have town ordinances when it comes to noise, and I'm sure the town of Munster will follow the noise ordinance per the town of Munster code. No different than your neighbor being able to play music till 9 o'clock at night. So yes, they will follow the noise ordinance per the town of Munster.
So I can play music too?
Well, whatever the ordinance says, and our town attorney is here, I'm sure she can get you all the information on the noise ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Laura Stewart, 1209 Fisher Street. I moved here in 2001. The first year I came, came home on 4th of July weekend and could hardly get into my neighborhood. Didn't know they shot the fireworks off right there. That melted on our roofs and our cars and in our pools and everything else. Change, I lived in the second house off the field in 2001. They changed the field in what, 2008, I think? 10 lights flashed at the side of our house. Just because the volume goes all the way up doesn't mean they have to turn it all the way up. When I called to complain about the noise, they said it's the school, like they didn't have to abide by any ordinance. Nobody's measuring them. I've called the school in the middle of the day when I can't even hear myself, when I moved to the third lot off of the field. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. And I said, I can't hear myself. This is coming out of your speakers. Saturdays, kids are playing foul, nasty music and nobody's in charge. Do we have to always call the police? Have somebody take care of those things? I have concerns with the trash. Gave Mr. Castro a nice bag from last week of mowing at the last town board meeting, and he wasn't very pleased. They don't maintain what they have. The trees along that parkway are going to be horrible. I've gone to Picaralchek's house many times, and it's difficult to back out the way it is now. The second house has a garage that goes under the house, so they have to come up and into the street. That's going to be awful. Many of the streets that are east of that area don't even have sidewalks in our area. So our kids, when we're walking our dogs, we're in the street. So right now, I'm on a dead end. A lot of people don't stop at that stop sign. Since the last meeting, 2 school buses have come down that dead end, Highland, and I don't know what the other one was. I guess they can't read the signs. So we have a lot of problems back there. We've got the noise. I know what the van was like next to my house. I have since built a new house and insulated with spray foam. Our houses were built in 62, so we were there early too, but their houses aren't, and I doubt that they can just move to the next lot over and build a new house. I feel for them because I know what it's like. When after the last, not the meeting last night, but last month, the school board meeting, I give Kristen Smith credit. She walked over to see what my concerns were. And when I brought up the fact, my biggest concern was the marching band on that lot, she said, the marching band's not going to practice there. She knew nothing about it. She said that the school board wasn't aware of that. It wasn't presented to them that way. And I pulled up the email that Ms. Capo got from Mr. Nolan, stating that the marching band was going to practice there. She seemed a bit surprised. I give her credit when I complained about the garbage. Within days, she was in that field picking up the trash. And since then, they're starting to pick up the trash. But you might not be able to see it from your house. My mother, my brother, I have a house on the ditch line. Any of the trash that goes into the retention pond, any of the trees, their lot goes to the center of that ditch. They don't maintain that, floats down the creek and into our yards. We just like it all to be cleaned up.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Anyone else? Once, twice, public hearing is closed. We'll bring it back to the board.
If I'm reading this right, sorry, Mr. Chairman. All we know is looking for variances regarding the types of that light pole heads, right?
That's correct.
Light pole head, the fixture, and basically the landscape items. So everything else meets code.
Everything else is code.
So you got 3 issues really that
We've got the
Light pole.
landscape islands and the light. Yeah, yes.
light heads and the fixtures. That's basically all we're voting on today, because everything else meets town of Munster code.
Yes.
Which they have the right to build that since it meets all codes. Is that correct? Westland except for the light poles and the islands.
Yes, and if I can add to that, I would just point out that this parcel that this is, that the petition is requesting the variances for is the same parcel of land as what is currently where the football field sits, where the practice field sits. Obviously, the new baseball field, but this property goes all the way down almost to the point of the bike path, so I think it's about 30 feet off from there. But it encompasses all of this. Why that is important is because the use of this property is obviously school property, and it is used for these recreational sports facilities. A related use to that, all related and permitted, is obviously parking facilities, bleachers, student access, activities, all that same situation. So from a legal standpoint, which is obviously my job in advising you on these issues, and as Mr. Ackley pointed out, and would recognize, the requests are specific to this property. You're not discussing or addressing the use. It is as I said, related use for a parking lot. Where that is on the property is really not in this board's discretion to say where a parking lot can or can't be. Now, obviously, the request for the parking standards, and whether or not you're giving them a variance from that is one thing. But as for the issue of the location, it is a tangential use to the school sports fields and the school facility itself. So they can place that on this property wherever they see in that regard. Obviously, the other concerns having to do with the lighting, as in regards to developmental variances, again, it's within your purview to determine, what you or how you want to handle that. But all of these items are related to what is proper under not only the existing code, but even back to what you indicated. This was long before back to the 1961 code, even before for zoning purposes of what would be allowed at that time.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bennett, I know we've had several meetings on this same kind of lake fixture in town. So it might be better off now than waiting for the zoning ordinance to probably get this into the current code, because we seem to have the same fixture at the orthopedic surgeon offices and several other ones. So we're better off probably trying to make a separate ordinance to get this into the hands of the planning commission.
So sooner rather than later.
Mr. Chairman, as Ms. Bennett just explained regarding, our legal duties with the Board of Zoning Appeals, this parking lot all meets the code. We're looking really at the two items. We're looking at like I said, already stated, we're looking at the private lighting standards and the parking islands. That being said, I'd like a motion to grant both variances. Mr. Nolan, I've known you a long time, very good principal. Please, you've heard members of the community talk about the trash and also working with them regarding kinds of band practices and stuff. Let's be good neighbors. So that being said, I'd like to make a motion to accept both variances.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there support?
I'll second the motion.
Support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Mendoza, can you call the roll?
Member Jones,
Yes.
member Rappin,
Yes.
and member Henry. Gray.
Yes. Thank you. Continue on discussion items. We have finding of fact, BZA 25-001 developmental standard variance. Mr. Smith of E. Anthony Inc., on behalf of orthopedic specialists of Northwest Indiana, received conditional approval for variance for table 26-6.405 Q1, public lighting, private lighting type, section 26-6.405 QB pole height, and section 26-6.405 for Q3 color temperature at 9900 Columbia Avenue.
Wow, the late pole variance again. I will make a motion to approve that findings of fact with BZA 55001.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Second, further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Mendoza?
Member Jones,
Yes.
member Rappin,
Yes.
and member Henry.
Yes. No other business at this time. Our next scheduled regular business meeting is June 10th.
Chairman, make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there support? We have 6:35, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
All right, folks, I'm gonna call this meeting of the Plan Commission for the Town of Munster to order for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Please set your phones for stun, please, and let's stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mendoza, nice to see you.
Will
Will you call roll, please?
absolutely, Commissioner Brandon. Councilor Hoffman,
Here.
Commissioner Johns,
Yes, present.
Councilor Nellens. And, Commissioner Rappin,
Yes, here.
Councilor Schinkin,
Here.
and Commissioner Baker.
Present, we have a quorum. Next up is the approval of the minutes from April 8th, 2025. I'm sure you all read them. Any modifications, motions, what say you?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? They're out there forever, folks. Next up is the preliminary hearing, PC 25-007. Attorney Scott Yaney from Midwest Orthopedic at Rush requests the approval of a preliminary plat lot 4 Lake Business Center subdivision. First re-subdivision of lot 3 located at 9260 Calumet Avenue. Mr. Mendoza, what's going on?
So this is a very similar project that occurred about a year ago in April. If you recall, this lot here highlighted in blue was subdivided into lot 3, which you just read. They are now proposing to subdivide, make another subdivision out of lot 3 and propose lot 4. So essentially, that was to complete your sequence of lots within the Lake Business Center developments with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you got 4 there. So that's what they're proposing. The intent is to create a legal lot of record for future development, which we hear about next, as amendments can be followed up with a development plan. Essentially, they are proposing a 2-story medical office building there.
Thank you. Any questions for staff regarding this particular issue? All right, is there somebody to say it? Mr. Yaney, yes, sir. State your name and address for the record, please, and have at it.
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting us this evening. Scott Yaney, Y-A-H-N-E. Business address 3 Lincoln Way, Suite 201, Valparaiso, Indiana. First of all, I want to thank you for entertaining our project this evening. I've got folks with me. I'll give you their names and kind of who they are. So if you have questions, we'll get the right people up to answer those questions. My client here is Munster MOB1 LLC. That is the purchaser of this proposed lot 4 that would be subdivided. There's an existing PUD for the Midwest Business Center. And we're seeking, as Sergio aptly described, to have this lot platted at the terminus of Franklin Parkway. So just beyond the light. We don't need any curb cuts, anything of that nature. We're coming right in off of Franklin Parkway. We are going to have a number of items for you this evening, right? We have the preliminary plat and final plat approval of the subdivision, right? We have a PUD amendment, also a development plan. I can talk to all 3 petitions kind of collectively for this preliminary meeting if it makes sense, or I can segment that yours is, whatever pleases the body here.
This is a public sector scenario, so let's follow the agenda, please.
Will do.
Deviating from the program is always not fun in the public sector.
Very well. Confined primarily to preliminary plat. The folks that I have with me, I have Fred Campabasso. He is the managing partner responsible for this development. I also have Brian Avery. He's from Cannon Design. He's our architect and supports a whole team of folks. I have Odari Lewis and Kayla Sullivan from Kimley Horn. They're doing our engineering. Later, they'll talk to you about stormwater reports and things you might want to learn about. We also have a traffic study as part of this that we'll get to. And I also have Michael Boyle. Michael is with RX Health and Science Trust. They're the owners of this property. And so all of these folks have been involved in this entire process, and we've been working with Sergio and team, and we went through site review committee, made some adjustments, and we are here this evening seeking on this first matter, preliminary plat approval of lot 4. It is in your materials. I don't want to take you on longer this evening than you'd like. But I do have, if you have professional questions, I do have those folks assembled here that could address those issues. And certainly, we understand that we'll be coming back next month for our public hearing, and we'll have our notices and everything else in order to go forward then.
That it?
I think that's it, because I don't want to get too much. I think
Okay.
you'll be more interested about the development than.
Right, so this one is to create a new plat, so you have the owner of the existing parcel, the way it sets currently, plus the owner of the new parcel,
That's correct.
right? And I'm sure it's in here, but how big is the new parcel, which is proposed lot 4?
Well,
2.3.
thank you.
2.3, and then what about the actual access road? Is that ring road stay with the current ownership?
Yes, and it is subject to existing covenants that will remain in place, so that it remains for the benefit of all users and the property owner. And there are a couple of separate property owners that serves.
So there's CCRs, correct, or is it?
Correct.
So those obviously run with the land, true, Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and to be clear, also, our lot does not intrude upon any of the easement, any of the declared easements under those covenants. It goes right up and abuts those easements.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner on creating a new parcel within Lake Business Center? This will make a significant amount of parcels that have been carved out of the original PUD, just for historical perspective. If anybody cares.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Sergio, I see in some of the staff findings and recommendations regarding access easements and other items. If you kind of fill us in on staff's position on that.
So the, as mentioned earlier, lot 3 has recorded covenants for cross-access easements, including the platted recorded ingress egress. There does not appear to be any proposed for lot 4. The applicant can probably speak towards that. I suspect that there will be no cross-access easement or use of the parking lot, unlike some of the other parcels.
I can speak to that, just give an assurance. There's another gentleman, Dan McCarthy, who is the attorney for the transaction. Dan and I have worked collaboratively to make sure those covenants absolutely serve our lot 4, because we need them. There is not an eyelash of daylight in between our property and those easements. There are cross parking easements that exist. There are access easements. There are utility easements. And we've actually worked quite closely with Michael and kind of configuring some of these, and he's given some helpful advice and running our NIPSCO lines and so forth. So
these will be submitted and recorded in the plat, all these easements and cross access agreements and stuff based on the covenants that we shown on final plat.
they will be shown on the plat, but they're linked to existing recorded easements. In that we won't have, I don't anticipate new easements that will be created as a result. There may be one. I'm trying to remember in the transaction, there may be one, but
So just show them for the exterior lot lines
yeah,
for where those are affected, but it won't be actually a lot 4.
that's correct.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you, sir.
You.
All right, we've done this before. What do you think?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set PC 25-007 preliminary plat for lot 4 Lake Business Center subdivision, first subdivision lot 3 located at 260 Calumet Avenue. Public hearing.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Either none. Mr. Mendoza.
Commissioner Brannigan,
Yes.
Councilor Hopper,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Rappin,
Yes.
Councilor Schinkin,
Yes.
and Commissioner Baker.
Yes. Moving right along, next up is PC 25-008, a PUD amendment. Mr. Yanni, again for Midwest Orthopedic at Rush, was requesting an amendment to the Lake Business Center Plan Unit Development, which is located at 9260 Calumet Avenue. Mr. Mendoza, real easy, got to do an amendment, right? And this is going to the council.
Yes, ultimately, your recommendation will go to the town council for final decision.
And the amendment would be,
They are proposing, very similar to what was done last year, modification of lot lines that were part of the PUD. Essentially creating lot 4 as well as design guidelines, bulk standards that are presented here or accompanied within this application itself as well. They've identified the additions or additional language to support the development plan with the follow this outlined here, and then the full document is identified as exhibits shortly after the application here as an exhibit B. So you've got 8 pages of discussion with regards to use, size, building size, materials, those subtext.
now the PUD overlays the entire property, including all of those parcels that have already been carved out, correct?
Correct.
What about the consistency of materials and whatnot? Is any modifications in the part of this amendment?
There appears to be historically separate guidelines and standards designed or plans submitted in support of or lack of guidelines. So this would be one that would guide just lot 4 itself.
So this amendment is going to basically carve it out as its own entity, almost like a single parcel in town to come in front of.
It'll have separate guidelines and design standards that were not accompanied on other portions of this community.
What about signage? We did a whole thing where the current owner re-signed the entire property. Is this now no longer having to adhere to that same overview?
Correct. So this would overlay or that signed proposal package that they have here would overlay what was previously approved.
Chairman?
Yes.
Is what they're proposing sign wise, we are current ordinance.
The PUD.
It's not
I'm
applicable
just curious to see
anymore.
how, does it meet our ordinance?
We did not confirm that because it's unique.
I would like to see for next month, what signs will be in compliance and what signs will not be in compliance, because we don't have to go on a PUD signage wise, we can deny it if it doesn't come close to meeting our sign ordinance.
From a legal standpoint, Mr. Rath, in the discretion of the plan commission, obviously you're not bound by, because of PUD creation, right? You're not bound by anything in the current heritage code. All
Consistency wise, we're trying to form a sign consistent with the rest of the town, so I don't see the variance between the two.
Any other questions for staff? All right, somebody to speak on this. Mr. Yanni, do the same program for me, please, as far as stating your name and address for the public record.
Sure. Scott Yanni, 3 Lincoln Way, Suite 201, Valparaiso, Indiana. And I'll start with the last topic first, signage. In the design standards, we have addressed this pretty significantly, including sizing of signage. We did work collaboratively with Sergio on several drafts of these design standards. Just kind of my input, a little behind the scenes here, I told my folks, hey, let's fit within the sign ordinance. I've been down this walk a few times. I know it's a lot easier if we do that. So we've gotten the commitment from my folks. They're pretty limited on what their signage is. I'll make sure we point it out as we go forward. Maybe Brian can help kind of show you on the when we get to the development plan. But we plan on sticking within the ordinance and not pushing the envelope here. We also, this is one of the it's not the, I've seen messier old style PUDs, but this is one of the messy old style PUDs where you don't have design standards, and we've been around for a little while, saw this project get developed over the years and know its history, and it was, kind of different components. So there's not a unifying Mike and his team have done a real nice job of giving it unity, but it's not a completely unified, type of approach, in terms of building materials, et cetera. What we are proposing, we are going to be held to what you see in our development plan in terms of construction materials, attributes. We've covered, anything from parking to, and certainly uses, building materials. So we'll expect Mr. Rappin to make sure we're in line there. Landscaping, our lighting, we do have the same lighting issue that folks encounter from time to time, that I've presented to you before as well. So we're going to give you what I think you'll find is a Class A building and development, and those are the standards that will apply. And I hope you'll agree with me that when you do see the proposed development plan and the elevations and renderings, that you'll agree that this is a Class A building that's going to reflect well upon the town, and we're going to be held to some very high standards. And so I know that was very important for Mr. Boyle, and Fred, I came to know about his project. He doesn't do anything less anywhere, so. But I'd be happy to address any specific questions you have within those bulk design and use standards. And certainly when we come back next week, or next month rather, if there are any particular interest, we'll be sure to cover it. Perhaps in the development plan presentation, you can ask some of my folks about specific questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
for next month, Mr. Yanni, is it possible to bring a facade mock-up? Do the materials? on
Yeah,
hand?
we have those here today, if you'd like, but definitely last week, or next month.
Mr. Chairman, would it be more appropriate for me to keep my questions about the building until the next agenda item?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is just a PUD. Ms. Bennett, I mean, what changes? Huh?
This is all material, so if there's a question, it's in the science standard packet right here, right?
Okay. Go ahead, ask your question.
Well, if we're gonna get into it, can we go over the elevations? I mean, I wasn't at the BZA meeting, so I don't have the background there, but, can you go over, it was unclear to me when I was looking at the package earlier. It seems like I guess I'm looking at page 12. The elevation that's on top, that's not facing the street. And the elevations that are in the middle, the one on the left, that one is facing Calumet. Is that correct?
Yes, I think, Brian, we may get into some questions that are more in your area. They'll probably want you to stand at the podium and announce your name and sign in. So is that okay if I swap somebody now?
Sure. Rathman's running this thing anyway.
So
It's 190 pages in a packet.
the question is regarding which elevation is facing Calumet.
Correct.
It is in the middle row there, the one on the left.
Okay.
How come there's no signage on that elevation? Are you gonna put signage on it?
There, so the middle row, the one on the left next to the material legend, there is signage on the pinnacle screen on the roof,
So that's it.
on the building, yeah.
All right.
Then we have a
Monument sign.
monument sign that's noted on the site plan,
Yeah,
as you enter off of Franklin.
coming off of Franlin on the site plan. Which one of my 50 pages am I looking at to find the
Page
site?
12.
12.
No, site plan's not 12, it's 13.
No.
Wait, what's like, what?
12 is the elevation.
I want to see where we're putting this monument sign. And how big is that monument sign?
What are you looking at? Because I don't know that those pages are matching up with the application.
I don't know. I'm asking the petitioner to tell me where it is. He said that there's a site plan that has the monument sign.
Yeah, I think there was a site plan earlier that just drove past.
So that'll be something for next time, all the signage, including how you're gonna get people around. where you're going to put all of the directional signs. Please include that for the next round.
So on this site plan that you're seeing, just as you're exiting off of Franklin under the property, there's a monument sign. I can point it out.
The touchscreen.
Right here.
Are you looking at page 27?
Just so we can establish the record, because you guys keep saying page numbers, are we in application 25-008?
Yes.
Yes. The application, and you're referencing page 12?
I referenced page
All have
12 earlier.
elevations.
Yeah, it's,
My PDF.
right, that Denise sent. Yes, staff report.
Okay, not the application,
Yeah, before we get in.
so that's not,
So this is the major requisition,
Yes,
Mr.
yeah.
President.
Yeah,
The application is in this package, Nicole, so
Midwest Orthopedics at Rush is yeah, that one.
okay. Ms. Brannigan, did you get your?
No, I do have more questions.
Okay.
about the Building, it just, it is a little bit blurry, so it looks like, the dark gray, that is all brick, right? Just,
That's
can
all
you walk
brick.
me through the materials?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, so the dark gray, as you mentioned, is a face brick. It's a darker kind of a little bit of a bluish tint to it. We're adding some texture with that with a detail we could call it recessed banding. It's essentially every course is recessed in or pulled out a little bit. That's some of the texture that you see across the facades. Other materials that you see on there, there's banding of aluminum composite material, so metal panels essentially. That's kind of the banding that you see wrapping around the top and the sides. We have some soffits of our composite wood material, so that's adding a little bit of color. It's harder to see on the elevations. The rendering shows that a little bit better of it from a perspective. And then, of course, you see the glazing there with the two-story curtain wall at the corner. We got a waiting area behind that right at the entrance, and then some punch windows and storefront that wrap around the lower level, connecting the entrance to the rehab gym. And there's some lighter colored masonry too, that kind of continues that metal band around the north and or the southern and western facades. I believe that's the entirety of the materials.
Mr. Raffin, was there, concerns that you had with the materials? Was that?
Well, they're coming next month anyway, so.
No, I know, but, just the materials not meeting our standards or, I personally think it's a great building. This is the kind of architecture I like to see. And I'm familiar with Canon design. You're with Canon?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And we've got material samples if you would like to see
Yeah.
them, or we'll bring them next month.
I guess my one concern though is the Calumet elevation. Does that meet our requirements for, glass and window sizing on, on a major street, Sergio?
We do not compare the PUD, materials design standards that are amended as part of the PUD, with the current.
Okay.
We can do that as part of the signage comparison.
Yeah, I mean, that's really my only concern is just, that is an important elevation on the Calumet side, and it just, seems a little bit of an, backside basically, or an afterthought. So, the rest of the building is so great. So maybe just a little bit. And didn't get to see the floor plans and see what's going on in there on that side, but, maybe a little more.
We'll bring the perspective renderings when we come next year that shows the view actual from Calumet as you're approaching the south.
And from the north, please. So the top one is going to be the north elevation. The one with the sign is going to be the east elevation facing Calumet Avenue.
That's correct.
So right now I'm looking at it, there's two little pieces of window, and then there's the side of the atrium, and then the rest of it is just blank wall facing the major thoroughfare.
Facing that side street, the access road off of Franklin.
Right, well, but all the traffic looks past the two restaurants, and this is what they'll see.
That's the facade. You can actually see that corner. So it's a restaurant on the back where you've got the vertical split window. So that's the corner that's facing Calumet.
So I understand that it's a nice look if you're coming south from Ridge Road and you stop at the light, and that's what you see is that top elevation. But if you're heading north and you stop at the light, you're seeing something completely different.
Correct. You're seeing those two elevations.
Okay. Not a fan. So, anything else for this young man? Ms. Brannigan, you have any questions?
Oh, no, that's it.
Any other questions with regards to what's going on? We're doing a PUD amendment. Ms. Bennett, I mean, as far as changing the current PUD for this particular location, or maybe this is for Mr. Mendoza, where on this 50 pages am I seeing the requested changes to the PUD?
It would be-
And you're in the staff's
Yeah.
position on those requests.
It's on page 14.
Page 14 of my deal here.
In staff report. It's what's-
It's
part of identified as exhibit B.
I got the Delaware is the Secretary of State. I got the warranty deed. I mean, come on, you're killing me.
Down from there. Go down.
Yeah.
So it's basically starting with standards for bulk design and uses, right?
Right.
Yes, and then goes on after that, section B, introduction, D lot, stormwater.
These are permitted exceptions. I don't need what the, I don't want. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I want him to tell me what the modifications are. I don't want to read 50 pages.
So we can do a comparison if that's what you'd like me to do, and then summarize that for you. But they are varying from the character-based code, and that's why they're proposing a PUD.
We've done 4 or 5 of these in this particular PUD, so I'm trying to see if there's a deviation from the other ones that we've already approved to the point where we're not creating a more of a jigsaw puzzle than we already had.
So what I can tell you from the other ones that were approved, as the attorney mentioned earlier, was a messy PUD.
Yeah, they're all messy.
So this was pretty messy. And so going back to pull those ordinances, identify whether there were even identified design guidelines and bulk standards going to prove difficult. We will do what we can.
Please remember, the amendment is from that PUD from 1996. It's not from the character-based code.
Well, because the PUD, if that was for really, the design was of the original building. So the original building was a manufacturing site, so that was the original,
No, the original 1996 was for the entire Lake Business Center.
right, which is all manufacturing. It was a Simmons manufacturing plant. So it had nothing to do with new ones. The new ones came with the hotels coming in, the DeVita, those in the restaurants. Those were all the modifications to the PUD.
But they were not modifications to all of the parcels.
They were just for those
It was for
individuals.
those specific.
So we're treating each one of them just as if it's its own animal and not part of a PUD.
Essentially, by the amendments that have been done, they've created, and they're still Lake Business Center, but it's a Lake Business Center, right? Lot 3 or lot 7 or lot 5.
And the premise and why folks do this in carving out the new lots is so at some point they can sell those and not have an impact with the rest of the development. That's the thought process.
Well, and as Mr. Mendoza and I discovered, in the 1990s and early 2000s, it was the way that development was done in town.
Right.
There was 25 or 30 communities created during that period of time.
Oftentimes, it's just a map,
The standards in a separate document for.
if at all.
building.
Yeah, a lot of them, you have to try to look at a plat to try to determine there are standards. That's why they're got cleaned up, but
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Yanni going through this document here. I see landscaping, but I don't see any mention of irrigation landscaping in section K. I assume your property is fully irrigated or your green space.
Yeah,
Or will be irrigated.
yeah, we'll have irrigation.
I'm just reading the document. I'll see it in there.
I know I've seen that, but I don't know how to get there quickly. I'm sorry. Had a computer crash, which didn't help earlier.
Hearing is looking for a motion seconds for public hearing.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion seconds for public hearing.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Is this public hearing or is this a recommendation?
It's a preliminary hearing setting for public hearing.
Copy that. Any discussion? Mr. Mendoza?
Commissioner Brannigan.
Yeah.
Counselor Hopper.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Rathman,
Yes.
Counselor Schinkin.
Yes.
And Commissioner Baker.
Yes. Next up on the same animal is PC 25-009. This is the development plan. Mr. Yaney is going to talk to us again for Midwest Orthopedic at Rush, which is requesting the approval of a development plan for a new 30,000 square foot, two-story medical office building to be part of Lake Business Center Plan Unit Development, which is located at 9260 Calumet Avenue. Anything different to add, Mr. Mendoza?
Same discussion, just now focus on development plan, which includes landscaping, lighting,
The monument
the
sign.
monument sign, signage.
An interesting traffic study. Go ahead, Mr. Yaney.
Oh, yeah.
Again, Scott Gamey, 3 Lincoln Way, Suite 201, Valparaiso, Indiana. Hope you'll find that we're presenting a Class A medical building. This is going to be affiliated with Rush affiliate. They will be doing a number of things, but occupational therapy will be one of the things they'll be doing there. Advanced imaging suite with MRI and CT. An orthopedic center. This is going to be a high standard, high quality facility. There are other attributes of this. I don't want to drill down into too much durable medical equipment, but happy to get into that if you'd like. This is, they've done a lot of work here. We have, as you mentioned or noted, there is a traffic study. One of the things is we want to be certain is that we've got enough parking and when we get to that point, you know, I've got those folks here that can talk on that more thoroughly. We have excess parking for our need, and we do have a high number of ADA spots, more than would be required, but they are required by the folks that would visit our facility. We also have a full stormwater engineering report. There's been a lot of work. Mr. Boyle's been involved in that directly to come up with the best solution for stormwater. I think we, after a lot of assessment and actually running out and doing tests of existing facilities, have determined that we do have a good workable system. And I'm going to let you know that the marching order from my folks was, hey, we don't care that there's enough there to get by. We just can't ever have a problem. We have, you know, we have high expectations that we have to meet for the folks that are going to be occupying this building. We've got to know that we have more than adequate stormwater capability. So, but I'll turn that when we get to the professionals for questions there. Also, and I think you'll want to hear from Brian in more detail, perhaps about the building, and he could talk to you a little bit more about perhaps elevations and materials and further follow-up. One thing I'll note is that part of our issue is that our building is substantially located behind 2 restaurants that are, you know, on Calumet Avenue, and that we're on this ring road. And it puts us at an awkward, if we face the building to Calumet Avenue, we would be looking at, we'd be obscured by the buildings in front of us. And the other issue is then how do we circulate traffic and getting people in and out? So this is beyond Scott's capability, but there's some things I've noticed just from being around on site several times. So, but I do have the folks here that could probably answer your questions, and I don't want to yammer too long. Sorry about that.
No more yammering. Is there any questions for Mr. Yaney? We'll have to start the process.
Sergio, what page is the traffic report on?
That is,
That's what I am. It's 52 and goes like to 108. Yeah, we don't like traffic.
Well, that's why they're moving there.
I can give you a couple of summaries. I can. Maybe I'll just touch upon a couple of those real quick for you. We are going to have 159 total spaces. We have determined our operational demand at 133 spaces, to at least give you a framework of what that is.
Including employees?
Yes,
And there's gonna be no spillover into other parking lots?
no,
Okay.
no. No, in fact, yeah, we'll see, but we may be a relief valve, so. Yeah, that includes staff, patients, clinic patients and physical therapy patients, also family members. So, that's all a part of it. So there's people that help them patients get to and from our facility.
So when you're coming in off of Fran Lynn, are you gonna be turning back north to get into your lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
No, when you go off Franklin, you would go straight into the parking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
My fault.
Cause with that Starbucks congestion over there, I mean, how is that gonna affect? Cause I know that stacks into Fran Lynn at times.
Yeah, so the traffic study.
Oh, Dari?
You come on up here.
Yeah. You wouldn't mind?
You're reading my mind, Mr. Hooper, but Starbucks is gonna be back.
Odari Lewis, business address 4201 Newfield Road, Winville, Illinois. So the traffic study found that there was not gonna be significant impact to the Starbucks. We proposed to just change the through arrow to like a through and left turn arrow, as well as provide some stop control on the minor streets. So there's not gonna be significant impact to any of the Starbucks traffic.
So is the ring road gonna have stop signs? It has stop signs now, so then there'll be stop signs coming out of your side, I would assume, correct?
Yeah, so we'll have stop signs coming out of our site, as well as adding some stop signs going onto Franklin from our site.
And then who maintains that road, Sergio, or Mr. Yanni or whomever, who, repaints the stop line? Who makes sure the sign's there? Has that responsibility? Considering the amount of pressure that comes onto this particular location,
So private roads.
but not the town. Again, my question stands though. That would be the petitioner.
That is subject to our conditions and to the entire PUD and Mr. Boyle and his group are
Right.
managers.
So I'd highly recommend that we find out who that is, because I'm gonna ask that question again. So if it's not you guys, then who does that to make sure that gets updated and does the maintenance of this thing?
Yeah, it's the. I'm Mike Below with RX Health and Science Trust. We're the owner there at 9200 Calumet.
You're the big parcel right now, 3.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And right now, between Simboard and our company, we're the ones that maintain, we have an existing agreement between our group and theirs that kind of stipulates who maintains, who plows, who maintains the stormwater. There's stormwater system that carries all the water from our property up north, left, and then jogs into the lift station. So it's all very spelled out and
So who's the property management company then? You?
correct. RX
Okay.
Health and Science Trust.
So, Mr. Mendoza, if there's a safety issue in this particular side on the ring road with the stop sign being down or the white line not being painted correctly, is that something that goes to this gentleman's company?
So typically what happens is we'll first get the call because they assume it's a public road and then we'll reach out to the management company and advise them of the inconsistencies or discrepancies on site.
And if they don't do anything,
If we're not aware of it, then we can't forward that information. So once we're aware of it, we do share that information.
okay. But as far as the oversight to make sure they do that deliverable, is that something that falls within the municipality being it in a PUD?
So typically what happens is it'll be either a guest or a tenant or someone visiting the site that may file a complaint or reach out to the Office of Community Development and say, hey, there's a stop sign down or these parking lines are not clear. And then we would then reach out to the property owner and advise them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on top of that,
you know, this has been split off in parts and pieces, so I'm not sure really what you manage, but you got the house center, and obviously you got Starbucks and Potbellies, and used to be old meatheads and all that stuff. And over the years, we've had all this landscape plantings, and landscapes have died, and trees have died in that area, they've never been replaced. I mean, I think it would be good in the town's interest to go back to some of those drawings and see what was originally proposed and approved compared to what you have now. I guarantee the plantings you have now are not what was approved back then when it was a similar project. But it should be up to the code, that whole parcel with landscape.
So what we'll do is, forward this information to the zoning officer, and she can, pull the approved site plans and do site visits and analysis of what's, currently intact.
And you said, Mr. Raffin, that this particular plan doesn't, on this landscaping, doesn't show irrigation.
I did not see that in the landscaping in the prior petition. Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question for Kimberly Horn. Right, has Kimberly Horn designed light pole bases here? Who's doing that?
No, you have to design like this.
I'm sorry, what was?
I was just wondering how deep your light pole bases are and your project with the foundations.
Oh, do we have that, Brian? I know we have the,
It's typically done with the electrical plan. Those light pole bases will be on electrical plans, which may be done design build, or it may be done, by Kinley Horn.
And what's your name?
Low Sullivan, right?
Hi, Kayla. I'm on the Cyrus Allman job. They're 15 feet deep there. They should not be 15 feet deep. So.
This one's a little less heavy duty, I would say.
That's all I have.
Good. Anything else, folks? The development plan, this is it. Ms. Brannigan?
Well, I should have a question, for the architects again, about your color choice. Again, I like it and it looks great, but, what drove that, given the brick color for the surrounding buildings is lighter, kind of, you know, more brownish, and I'm not saying it has to match, but just complementary, you know, what drove the gray and the darker colors?
Sure, the gray masonry is something on one of Midwest, orthopedics, these existing buildings they have elsewhere, so it's kind of a brand new masonry for them. Well, you know, when I look at the existing buildings in the surrounding area, we thought it complemented fairly well. You know, that's part of why we added the light banding, metal panels, and the other brick that we have in the parapets to complement that darker brick color.
And so, since you were last up here, Mr. Yaney was talking about the uses in the building. So on that east elevation, would that be more of those MRI and imaging rooms? Is that why there are
That's
no
exactly
windows?
right.
Okay.
Imaging on both floors is along that facade. There are two smaller work rooms, which you see with those two windows that you see outside of the taller window at the corner, which is the lobby.
I mean, I still have hesitations with, you know, the east and south elevation, just
As do I.
the north elevation is so great, so, that could just be,
Which side of it, especially when you see the front.
yeah.
On the aerial, I mean, that shows the outlet buildings, could you, for the next meeting, have an overlay of the building and show its relation to those outlet buildings, please? It looks like it's all the way down to the south end of the lot. But I'd like to see it against those, you know, with the two outlet buildings on an aerial, please.
Sure.
Just so we have an idea of what the sight line is gonna be looking like and how that's gonna fly.
Yep, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I see all the mechanicals are screened on the roof. Is there any intention for backup generators at the site? And there's none in the future or none?
No plans for backup generator.
If they wanted to put a backup generator, Sergio, that's not something that needs a permit from us, but from the municipality.
Correct, it's a building permit that we would issue, and as long as they screen it and follow the code.
Chairman, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to set this for public hearing.
Any other questions, folks? There's a motion to set this for public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion off of that? Moving right along, Mr. Mendoza.
Commissioner Brannigan,
Yes.
Counselor Hopper,
Yes.
Commissioner Johns,
Yes.
Commissioner Rathman,
Yes.
Counselor Schinkin,
Yes.
and Commissioner Baker.
Yes. All right, folks, moving right along. This is an interesting one. Public hearing, PC 25-006, a development plan for Mark Smith with E. Anthony for Family Christian Center. Request approval of a development plan for a building addition approximately 25,500 square feet located at 340 45th Street. Mr. Mendoza.
This is for the Family Christian Center. They are proposing to expand on the existing facility to the north and to the east. They are essentially proposing, the expansion would be to the east for primarily storage use and their needs. It does not increase capacity. To the north, they are expanding their lobby area for gathering of fellowship and entryways for their patrons and of the Family Christian Church. Essentially, that's what they are proposing at this time. There's no impact to any other lighting, landscaping. They will be impacting parking towards the east. However, they are currently over on parking requirements. They will be at 720, if this development plan moves forward, they would be at 720, they are required to have 635.
Thank you. Is there somebody well, first of all, going back, this is a public hearing. We've had this conversation because this is the first time we've seen this. And it's at public hearing, and we mentioned that's because of an ordinance. Is that a new ordinance? Because we keep having this discussion when we get a new development plan and we haven't seen it. Usually we have a preliminary and it slots in that previous header.
So I can tell you that it's not in the ordinance. The ordinance reads that it goes straight to public hearing. In fact, we looked at previous development plans for single sites like this that are not within a PUD, and they've all been identified as public hearing on the agenda. And the only preliminary, or the only development plans that require preliminary hearing are those that are here as part of a PUD.
Thank you. Somebody to speak on behalf of this petition. Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Antonio Belmonte, 9987 Marble Lane, Munster, Indiana. I'm a liaison for the FCC. I have a team here, which includes the architects, Zenon Kurzel, Nick Bruno, Pastor Steve Muncie is here, and Mark Smith from E. Anthony E.
That it?
That's it.
What are you doing?
We're asking to go forward with this addition on the east side of the current church, which is the area in green. Once the front elevation is redesigned, it's already redesigned and added, you won't even see the addition. What the addition does is it adds, it does several things. Storage spaces that desperately needed, because currently FCC rents storage space from the warehouses across the street on 45th. And every time they have these events where they do, whether it's Passion of Christ or Scrooge, any of these, all the staging is dismantled, taken across the street and stored for the next year. And it occupies a lot of space, but also as you're transporting this back and forth, there's damage, they have to be rebuilt, touched up, etc. Also traffic wise, it's just a lot easier to have everything in-house versus hauling stuff back and forth constantly. The other issue is, obviously the auditorium is quite large as it stands, and the members of the church, when there's a funeral, you have this, large seating capacity, and you have a small funeral where they get lost in this big facility. So Pastor Muncie wants to have a small chapel, which would be up towards the north end of that green area. A small chapel to be able to have intimate, quiet funerals there, and also a small chapel to have, little wedding ceremonies. It just kind of makes sense. It makes more intimate. The facility is just too big to be doing those. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor, did you say the chapel would be open 24 hours? That was another issue that I didn't mention. The chapel will be open to the community 24 hours, full-time security to go and pray. Somebody's in the hospital, something's going on with the family, they can just go there and pray in the chapel instead of, opening the facility. It'll be open all the time with security, obviously.
Okay, I see that when I read this, it says 25,500 square feet as an expansion, and I'm reading this, overview. And it looks like the first floor goes from 60,000 and some change to 86,000 and some change. The second floor goes from 38,000 to 71,000. Can you explain that to me, please? I went to IU, that sure doesn't seem like 25,000 though.
The green area.
I'm just reading what you presented.
So the existing first floor of the blue area is 60,457. The second floor above that blue area, bluish area, is 38,516. So the existing square footage is 98,977. The proposed addition on the east side would be 14,758. The north addition, which is the red end of it, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, is 10,785, which gives us 25,543. The east addition, again, is 10,293, and the north addition would be 749 on the second floor. So the total addition currently, correct? Zennon? The current total addition is 25,000 square feet, right?
No, I have the 36,585.
With the second floor?
That is correct, with
Okay.
the second floor.
Sergio, put up page 16 up there on this, your stat packet.
Right there. So that's what I'm reading.
157,499 proposed total.
So is it 36 just the footprint and not the second floor?
No, the footprint, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, the total, including both floors, first and second, for the east and north addition. It's a grand total of 36,585 square.
Oh, I believe you. I'm just reading what's there. If you look on the screen and the math doesn't pencil out.
It doesn't at all.
We will double check everything.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Sergio, correct me if I'm wrong, square footage would change parking use, right?
Not for this code, the code is based on the number of pews.
Piece of-
Parking calculations based on that.
Absolutely.
To that point, do you anticipate, it sounds like, you're creating storage, you're creating a small chapel. The parking needs, I understand that you guys are currently within code. Nicely within code, but I do feel like driving past the center that often parking is burgeoning. So
Correct.
do you anticipate these additions creating additional parishioners, additional activity? Yeah, where are we gonna put these?
No, that's correct. I live there, so I drive by there, 4 or 5 times a day. The total parking that we have currently is 810. Now, it's 790 right now, but there's 90 parking spaces where the back, if you put up the building, that back end of the building, and maybe I can step here. And currently, this is not striped, see? They didn't denote anything here, because if there's an event or something, they'll have trucks there or whatever for the staging stuff and all the transportation we talked about. So this is currently not, that would be another 90 spaces.
So that's the difference of the 720 and the 810.
Correct, correct. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the green part of the addition. It's basically storage and then the small chapel. And I'm not sure how much, but when that's happening with the chapel, it's going to be a funeral. There's not going to be anything happening in the big church. So that part wouldn't affect it. You follow me?
What is the capacity of the chapel proposed? How many pews, or does this still, again, for code, we're already over on parking, but it just doesn't seem like there's enough.
Is that question to whom?
Well, I guess in this chapel, if parking capacity is based on pews, what are we adding in that? Let's just assume that someday there is something going on at a larger event and there's a smaller gathering in the chapel.
Sure.
What does that do to us?
And from a staffing perspective, I mean, there's enough challenges in town. You're telling me that somebody from the municipality goes and counts pews?
See, it's basically seating. There's no pews there. It's seating, right? Regular seats, just like the current auditorium.
More
What
like,
are you anticipating?
how many people?
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Pastor Steve Muncy. Question on the chapel. Chapel is 3,000 square feet. You figure 10 square feet for aisles, platform, etc. It's not going to seat over 200, but they're not fixed chairs because it may go up. We may set it up for 100, may set it up for 125. Just depends upon that room and how it's laid out. So I don't think, personally, I don't think it'll be over. Really don't think it'll be over 200 as far as the way we set it up. That's our plans anyway.
Thank you.
Thank
That's your
you.
question.
Yeah, I'm still concerned about parking, but you answered my question and
Yeah.
with that.
To
they
give
would
you
be
some
covered.
history of the building, so the back part that's not striped off was never applied as far as getting it done, and then we asphalted it, and we left it as a playground for our youth and children, so it never was striped off. So we did asphalt it, and it has not been striped off, so there's actually more parking spaces. To give you some insight, we have to build the east side before we can build the front. This building originally was designed for that east side to be built at the same time when we got the okay for this building. We didn't do it because of finances. So now, as you see, there is a west side, but there's not an east side. So when the east side gets on, then we'll be able to put as you see, the rendering, the front side. So the east side is important for us to get that up, and then we can begin to do the front. Does that help?
Well,
Pastor, I have a question. So you're going to extend the north part of the building. So I'm looking at the access road. So consider it the front door when I drop my mom off, right? So if you have that expansion, are you going to push the current access road to that front door further north?
No, sir. If they would put up the rendering, you'll see that the entrances are different. The entrances are on either side as far as drop off. You can see right there, the drop offs are on either side. And so that lane, that huge lane that we have in now that we go underneath carport and drop off, will be carports on either side. And that lane will be encompassed with the lobby
it'll be enclosed.
being closed. It's all glass, that's no problem, you can see from the side there. So that will be enclosed. And then the drop offs and the pickups, we're pretty excited because it's two instead of one now. Traffic wise, it will help us, and it'll be much better for people.
But we're losing a row of parking.
There's no parking there.
No parking.
No
So
parking.
you're not losing any parking in the
No,
front of the church?
No, sir.
And then on the east side of the church, how many spots are you losing by?
I think we're losing about 30. I'm not sure I could.
But
give
you're
you-
gonna gain 90 in the back by.
Well, if you want, yeah, that's our safe haven because we have that in the back to add to.
Those lines and parking lots are just suggestions anyways.
I hear you. I hear you.
Like you saw them pull in. So mathematically, if we add 200 more seats, Sergio, are we still with the 90? If we take parking to 810, if it was striped and we added 200 seats for whatever's required,
it would depend on how many seats there are within that 3,000 square foot chapel. So the way the parking ordinance reads for places of worship are 3 seats, 1 car or 1 parking space for every 3 seats.
Okay, so,
That's a fixed pew. That's a big old school wooden thing
Yeah.
that, you know, from that. And what I'm
Here,
hearing is that.
per seat. This is in this case.
in the main sanctuary, how many seats are in there?
On the back wall, I think you put up, I don't hold me to this, I think it's 1902,
Okay, so we'll just.
1909.
1909, add in 200, let's say we have 2110. How does that, how are we? Honestly, I'm just trying to figure out a way to create more parking as you're doing this to, if it drives addition, because it's already a problem. So I was just kind of trying to make that a part of the discussion. If it's possible, as you are creating this, to improve that.
I don't think it'd be a problem. This is not fixed seating, by the way.
I understand.
Fixed seating is where you get into 1 for 3. So it's not fixed seating, so we can make it, we can make chapel 100, we can make it 50, we can make it 75, but it's 3,000 square feet, but there's a platform in there, and so that's the kind of room we'll be using. But I understand what your concerns are. If there were people on overflow there, you know, where would the parking be? So we believe the parking is sufficient for the back. But we're always challenged because I never know how many's coming. So, you know, when you have 3 services on Sunday morning and they're packed, you know, you go to a 4th service. And I've been here 4 years. I don't want to go to a 4th service. I'm going to go to 2 services. I'd like to go to 1. But
And it's really gonna be packed.
Huh?
And it's really gonna be packed.
Well, that's all. I've done 6 a week. I don't want to do that. It doesn't matter how many I do or less do. But I'm very excited for Munster because the front of this building is going to be really beautified after we have built this 21 years. And the front is really going to be great. The cross is really going to be phenomenal. And I think it's going to be convenient for our people. So anything I can answer or tell you about, I'll be glad to. If not,
Any other questions for the petitioner?
I do agree with you, is certainly an improvement. I do have a question on page 36 of our staff report. The A 2.3 proposed exterior elevations, your portico shares that are on either side, it's not showing that pyramid, like type diamond skylight.
yeah, that's not going to be there. I
Oh,
want to
good.
forewarn you. That was a nice
I was
idea,
a
but
fan
that
of
got,
that.
that is cut off. It's not in the final, but that's not going to be there.
So the diamond pyramids will not.
No, it won't be there.
Love it, okay.
It won't be there.
They-
So
Yeah. mini
it'll
loop.
look a lot better.
I just didn't, I mean, I get the skylight
No,
bringing in
it's all
light,
right,
but it
because-
just seemed a little flashy.
Sure.
No.
Yeah.
But
Well, we're actually, I'll tell you the good idea, and then it was not a good idea. It was my idea. I wanted a dining center because I wanted 2 angels, and I wanted them to turn, and I wanted them to be life size, and I wanted to be because remember that Munster, you guys don't remember this, but Munster at first, when we started building, required that we have some kind of display that was arts. That's the reason why the Lord's Supper's in there. And then across the street, you'll see the deer, and you'll see the printing press that
Good times.
Times did. Then you'll see the arts, and you stopped it. You stopped it. But we have a beautiful 45th Street that's full of creativity there, and we're going to just keep adding to it. But the diamond thing got shot down because my wife didn't like it, so that's the end of that. It was a good idea, I thought. Is that it?
I think so. I like I said, I think it's an improvement.
I think you'll like it. I hope you'll like it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your work.
Chairman, hold on a second, I have to do the public hearing. Unless you have a check question.
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, so Monty, quick question for you.
Yeah.
I see the civil plans, but I don't see any kind of landscape plans. Are we adding on any additional landscaping, to make sure it's landscape?
There's no additional landscaping or changes to the existing landscaping.
Let's see how it kind of fits in with our current code, so I'd like to see kind of an overlay compared to what it is, compared to what the current code landscaping is.
Is there any landscaping? Well, there's some landscaping. They're tearing down the stuff on the east side though, if this goes through.
It doesn't affect the, parking islands there. They still stay there. The east side goes up to, correct on it, it goes up to where the parking landscape islands are right now on the east side. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't tear it down.
So it's gonna go up to those islands, so it's just gonna.
Just before, it's about what, 50, how many feet is that before that?
I don't know.
But it doesn't tear those down.
The landscaping won't be touched there, nor will it be touched in the front. So what you got now, no landscaping is touched in our addition.
Sorry.
They're not
Trees on that. Put trees in front of the, storage units. And trees across the street for the, we're just looking at the aerial of the parkway along the street with the sidewalk.
Parkway trees down 45th Street. Sure, that's something you're gonna want to take a look at, you know.
Yeah, I still don't understand the square footage from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They change it.
Current codes.
Unless it's modified, it's all higher level with a non-conforming.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, this is a public hearing, so I'm gonna open this up for a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this, please come to the microphone, state your name and address. Let's go. Yes, sir. Public hearing.
Hi, this is Zenon Kurjo. I'm with Ridgeland Associates. We're the architects for the project. And I just thought I want to add a few things. That number one, we are not asking for any variances. What we're expanding over is paved areas, so it doesn't affect anything with regards to water capacity storage, so our detention ponds will stay the same. And basically what this is to create a larger vestibule, if you will, where people could show up before mass and after mass, exchange greetings and hellos and so forth. And I think I'd like to address also the parking requirement. Keep in mind that during the normal, Sunday events, that's the entire property is open. This small chapel is going to be as an auxiliary component that will be operated at different times than the regular masses. And I think it's important to mention that. And if you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them regarding architecture and the plan.
All right, this is the public hearing section of this process, so we'll get to that.
Thank you.
All right, going once, going twice, closing the public hearing, bring it back to the commissioners. What say you?
That's still the existing first floor, second floor, and then you're looking at the proposed.
He's gonna have to get back to us, so he asked for the additional questions, so the square footage, at least from what I heard, if you're asking about that page with the total square footage, that'll be something that'll have to come to staff prior to the next meeting. Oh.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue this next month. We address the square footage requirements that are shown in this packet.
We have a motion to continue this. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? So the reason to continue this is based on the square footage discrepancy between the existing total of 98,977 square feet and the proposed total of 157,499 square feet. So that's in a discrepancy to what was originally put on the agenda. We're going to look to clean that up because that seems to be a major one. Any other discussion? Either or not, Mr. Mendoza.
Commissioner Brandon.
Yeah.
Counselor Hopper.
Yes.
Commissioner John.
Yes.
Commissioner Rath.
Yes.
Counselor Schinkin.
Yes.
And Commissioner Baker.
Yes. All right, moving right along. Thank you, folks.
Brandon,
Did I didn't.
I did.
Next up is PC 25-005, another development plan approval. Jim Glasgow of WT Group representing the school town of Munster requests approval of the construction of a parking lot, bleachers, lighting, landscape, and expansion of a storage building at 8823 Columbia Avenue. This is a continued public hearing. So, Mr. Mendoza.
Correct, this is the continued public hearing. Since the last review of this, there have been some changes. I just want to point out what some of these changes are. Included here are they relocated the landscaping buffer that was adjacent to the residential property. And they've installed a 6-foot wood fence on that. They've also relocated the lights that were initially in the center of the parking lot. They've relocated them to the outer areas of the parking area. And they applied for a variance and received a favorable approval for the landscape islands in the parking lot as well as the light fixtures themselves.
So the wood fencing is, how deep does that go south of 35th Street? And why would they want to do wood, which you have to paint and maintain and it rots? That's not you. That second part is just the editorial. That'll be for the petitioner. But if you could help me on how far deep that goes, Sergio?
Sure.
It's not running the entire length, is it?
No, it is running to the edge of the property. It looks.
Oh, I didn't get a staff report. Let's go to the old staff report.
Yeah, you gotta go to April 1.
Okay.
Well, it wouldn't be, that one would.
That would be right.
That would have a fence on it. This would,
So we don't have anything on this.
and it's running slow, I apologize for that.
If I can answer that question, I'm Jim Glasgow with the WT Group. I'm a civil engineer on the project. We installed that fence along the east property line from the property line south right of way with 35th, and it runs down to L into the north face of the building. So it's going to create it's going to close off that area along that east side.
So it's only along the parking lot.
Correct.
Why?
Because we put that in there in order to block the lighting from cars turning into the parking lot at the request of the neighbors and the commission at the last hearing.
So just for the parking, just for the automobile lights, not for any of the illumination of the parking lot in and of itself.
Correct.
And then the existing chain link fence that's been there, we're not doing anything with that?
But that is correct.
Why? You're gonna say you don't have any money?
I mean,
Yeah, so state house and defense.
I'll let you take that. Sean.
Yes, sir.
Sean Bagley, Director of Operations, School Town of Munster. We do have money, but it's a zero-sum game. If we do put in a new fence there, then it's gonna take away from something else in the project.
So why wood fence?
Well, we are open to different materials. The purpose of that fence is to block light from bleeding over into the neighbor's property. If we want to get something that's more weather resistant, that certainly.
Or maintenance free?
Yeah, well, we are,
Big on that, I'd hope.
yes, I'm fine on maintenance free.
So there's cement board type fencing that's available for that type of a scenario that looks very nice, but it's gonna be consistency throughout the entire project. So now you're gonna have wood or some new fencing scenario at this north part of it. And then the rest of the property line with the neighborhood is gonna be the old chain link fence.
Correct.
It's visible.
That same, if I'm correct, that same type of fencing that you referenced, that also creates a sound barrier, which might be favorable to the neighbors. Just throwing it out there. I think it's an expensive type of fencing, but doesn't it? And going down, it might also then reduce some of it, talking about being a good citizen in the community to consider doing that all the way down. Then you're gonna reduce the garbage and, all of the rest of those things that those of us who were here earlier, if it's possible, perhaps consider
Yeah, and
that
that's,
without taking away from something meaningful, but, and I agree with Mr. Raffin's comments earlier. We live in a community, the reason our property values are what they are is greatly because of our schools and that marching band and everything that goes along with it. So I'm a big proponent of improving our facilities. But in partnership, if there's something that can happen that takes away some of the concerns that we then don't have to maintain, we don't have the eyesore of chain link fencing next to wood fencing that's gonna become dilapidated. If we could use a fencing like that more consistently, maybe it would address several of the concerns and perhaps reduce some headaches going forward for the school of Town Munster.
and one of their ideas, it could always be done in phases. You don't have to do it all at one time. So year over year, you had a little bit done, and pretty soon the whole thing is done and it's a maintenance-free fence. Because there's not any more room to do any more work here. Well, there's one more place we could jam something. Southeast corner. That's a exception.
That's a detention, so it can be tough.
Useless.
Okay, what other change, from the package that we got last month, Sergio, other than the fence? I'm sorry.
The location of the lighting fixtures, they were initially located in the center of the parking lot, two of them. And they have relocated them to the outs. Getting tired.
Slowing down on you.
Yes, it is.
Morgan Nolan, Principal, Munster High School, 9749 Whitehall Garden, Munster, Indiana. We requested the lights at the parking lot be moved to the exterior of the outside of kind of standard tradition, putting the light poles in the middle of the parking lot. We're hoping to use this space for multi-purpose area, not just parking. As we talked about with our variance for the islands in the parking lot for town code, the last meeting, we're hoping to be able to paint lines out there for marching band to have practices earlier in the evening instead of late into the evenings. They would be able to start there right after school, or at least earlier after school, to help with some of the noise issues and the neighbors. And as we were talking, we've got some other plans to use that parking lot. We'd be able to roll out an additional turf field that we'll be getting from the NFL for girls flag football. We'll possibly be able to use that there as well. So again, we wanted that area to be flexible, and having light poles in the middle of it bars it from being flexible.
Thank you. Mr. Nolan, I have a question. Is there any plans for student parking?
There's no plans for student parking there at this point in time. As I said in the last meeting, I don't want to stand up here and lie and say we'll never have students park there. There might be circumstances where we're hosting an event during the day with classes going on. We might need to move some students over there, or staff during the day for an event. But we're not planning to use that for student parking, just with cross traffic and those issues there. We do okay on student parking in and around campus right now. Our biggest issues with parking are event facility maintenance wise. So evening events, weekend events, big football games, swim meets, town events that we're hosting there, we're short on parking.
So no permit parking.
No, we're not looking at daily parking. And the reason for that is because we want to be able to get in that lot right after school. And if a group needs it right after school to do something, we're not waiting on cars to move out and leave. We're not using it for a pickup drop off. We're not planning to use it for that stuff. We want to use it for groups right after school, get the group off of there so that if there's an evening event going on, a baseball game, we move baseball parking in there, alleviate some of the pressure, and they're not walking all the way down from the south lot to the baseball fields.
Is that parking lot gonna be gated?
Yeah, it's already gated there. So there's already an entrance. And I guess the big thing is it's a gravel lot as we speak now. We're looking to expand that lot, pave it, line it, and use it more effectively. There's a gravel lot in that area that gave us access to the current storage building. Expand the storage building, pave the lot, expand the lot, be able to use that a little bit more efficiently.
You gotta remember back in the days, that was the old softball field.
Correct.
And then we practiced football there when you were redoing the football field.
Correct.
And as far as the lighting goes, it's gonna be illuminated every night.
Correct.
And then as far as like like the lighting, style, it's not gonna be, annoying to the residents nearby.
We look for lighting that would minimize any light deflection back. If you look in the drawings, there's deflectors on those lights that are closest to the residents and the neighbors. We're gonna try to force as much light there, but it's light, it goes everywhere.
Well, I would say, since you guys changed the lights at the football field, that's my backyard. I live on Elliott. And, when they change, I can't even tell when I'm sitting in my house if you got a game or not.
Yep.
I have to go out, it's like, oh, the lights are on. Before, it was like, it would light my whole backyard up.
Yep, we've done a better job of working with some light engineers, and obviously the technology's come a long ways with LED lighting. And so again, our variance that we asked for allows us to use some upgraded lighting, a little bit more efficient, but also the ability to kind of stream that back to the lot and not so much elsewhere.
Mr. Nolan, I don't know if this is you or operations, but on event nights, let's call it a soccer game, baseball game, football game, as far as parking in that particular lot, how are we gonna handle capacity and moving traffic along once it's full? And is it gonna be first come, first serve?
So we'll do what we do currently at all of our events. We'll have to use police officers for large events. We hire staff. We work with our SROs in the school community to manage our parking facilities for large events. Yeah, it might be first come, first served for that lot. If we need to manage it from a standpoint of entry exit, we'll either look at our SROs managing that, or student services department on campus. We'll look at managing that as needed. But we're pretty familiar with parking and big events. I mean, it's not perfect by any means. Weekend events are the biggest ones because a lot of them we're not hosting as a high school. But like football games and those types of things, we do a pretty good job of managing parking. We're limited.
And also there's some sharing between Munster Park District, softball, baseball, and other parking lots, so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough when someone calls me and says, all these people are parked, in bad spots, and we're tracking down the cars, and we don't have anything going on at the high school. It's, little league games going on, and, parents are over there, and parents park bad, and, it happens. So, yeah, we got to all work together in a small postage stamp here, so.
So would it be like in a Pop Warner situation? I mean, I know there's games that go on all Sunday.
Yep.
But I mean, it seems like the parking that's current is enough. So would it be open just to be open, or would it be, there's plenty of parking across the street?
No, like for Pop Warner, we probably wouldn't open that. Like you said, we're okay Pop Warner parking. We're not filling the stands up over there on Sunday. It's, starting at 9 and kind of running throughout the day. The groups are rotating through and kind of replace parking as needed. So the gate would be closed. If Pop Warner came to us and said, we're running out of parking, we would explore this as an option if we need to use it. If not, then we'll look at other parking options before we got to open a gate, close a gate, and get folks into a small area. Yeah.
Because it just seems like this is kind of morphing into a different animal, because initially, when this was getting, talked about, there were numbers popping up like 19 or 20 times a year, they're gonna use the parking lot. Now we're talking about some different things, but I kind of like what I'm hearing, that it's not gonna be student parking, that it's not gonna be, used, because I mean, I completely understand residents and their concerns.
Sure, yeah.
So it has to be managed.
Yeah, we're not looking at student parking we're looking at event parking and big event parking. And it's 19, 20, 25 events a year, maybe more, maybe a few less. But on a regular basis, we're looking at servicing our students after school. Again, as we've talked about, we're one of the few schools in the state of Indiana that has both middle school and high school sports all in one facility. And yeah, we're blessed now to have 3 turf fields, but we still have groups that have to rotate through. And we try to make sure there's equal access to certain things there. We're looking to add and expand our fall sports package for our student athletes at Munster High School, which means tighter facilities. We're trying to service our kids. Our kids have growing needs. The community has growing needs. And there ain't no more land. So we want to make sure that we have a place that is multi-purpose, multi-flexible. It's the same thing we did internally in the building. If there's a classroom, we're not bolting chairs to the floor. We're going to make it as flexible as possible, because A group's gonna come in and say, we need to dance in this room, we can move all the chairs out of the room, they have dance space now. We need to have a meeting in there, we put the chairs out, we go from there, we're looking at the same spot here for parking, so.
Thanks. Thank you. I have one more question along 35th Street. I know that along Columbia, the fencing is that faux, wrought iron. And
Yeah, it's
then
aluminum, yeah.
aluminum, and then along 35th, I mean, with all the construction there, is that gonna be mirrored along 35th as all this new work comes in?
It's currently the same fencing that goes all the way around the property there.
Okay.
That was done when we remodeled the entire campus around that 2009 timeframe. That's all aluminum wrought iron fencing that per town code goes all the way around that. The only fencing that we have chain link out there is that property line fencing that's existing, and we just discussed.
Are there plans to continue all the great events and wins from the high school by putting more signage on that fence?
Yeah, we won't fill it up.
We did that already.
Well, we have a few places to go, but we hope to fill it up. If we got to come back and redesign and add extra spots, then we'll add extra spots. But yeah, the goal is to continue the pride and excellence that we have for the school town of Munster and our students in this community. So yeah, we will fill that signs up.
You're welcome, Mr. Nolan, for that softball.
You throw any other one, you throw hardball if you want. I can't play ball.
Well,
so.
the hardball would be, it's signage and you didn't get a permit for
Sign,
Permit for the signs?
them.
yeah, it's a sign district there.
The sign district.
Yeah, we're waived on the sign district in that
Sign
zone.
district right there.
From 35th down, we got waived.
I think that was a home run.
So that was waived. So, you know, our signage is in compliance there. So yeah, we're good.
Remember, he went to IU, he takes a while to catch up.
Yeah, it's all right. I went to Wabash, which is even slower, so it all works
Hey, I
out.
went to
so.
Munster High School, so let's blame that.
But yeah, we did a ordinance relief there in that zone, so we could do some signage work. And again, I think what we've done has been aesthetically pleasing for the community. And again, as people come through, they feel proud and they know where they're at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before I open it for public hearing? All right, this is a continuation of public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this matter, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and let's go. Yes, man, don't be shy. Rap and won't bite.
Wow.
Wow.
Laura Lynn Goralczyk, 1144 35th Street, Munster, Indiana. Just a few concerns. The wood fence idea does kind of make me wonder if, when it gets older, what was the fence that you suggested?
Oh, it's a maintenance free. It's like a cement board
Or
or,
PVC.
yeah, plastic. But
Okay.
it looks, they make them now with technology. It looks a lot nicer than what you would think of plastic.
Like along Calumet Avenue and Dyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, John, we would prefer that. We would prefer that to wood, and we're there. That's us you're talking about.
Okay, so you're the house right up where this fence is going.
Yes, sir. So I agree that it starts to look bad on my side. I'm not gonna like the wood looking bad on my side either. My main concern is the tree buffers along 35th and Columbia. It obscures the view, at least from what I see, it looks like it will obscure the view for the police and others to know what's happening inside that parking lot. Right? Would you agree to
It
that?
is gonna be gated, so there's, the only people that I understand is gonna be in there is who you allow to be in there.
You know how many people jump the fence and squeeze to the opening every day?
Oh, I used to be one of them back in the day.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And and the gate gets left open. And I can see that people who know the routines would discover that they could go in there and, do whatever, have little car shows, whatever. You know what I mean? For the gatherings, they found all the parking lots around town to do that. And so if that's were to happen, that would make it so they couldn't see what's going on in there. And it's gonna make it so I can't see when I'm backing out of my driveway. So I'm concerned about that. Why is that gonna be put there? Just to make it prettier, to,
You mean the landscaping?
yeah, along Columbia and 35th Street, but mostly 35th Street.
That's our.
It requires,
Landscaping.
Landscape, it's in the
just
order.
because it's a new construction.
It's in our ordinance, yes. So every new building complies with these codes.
Okay, so it just hasn't been there because when it was built the first time, this wasn't in code. Okay, so the new code requires what? Just any specific or trees?
There's code, I'm trying to find the landscaping plan, but has it changed from last month, Sergio?
No, it's still an enhanced buffer yard, for the parking part per code. They complied with that.
So I'll have a fence that I can't see through all the way to the sidewalk, and then I'll have these trees that I can't see through once I get past the fence that I can't see through.
No, you won't be, the trees are gonna be trees. It's gonna be a trunk, so it's not gonna be, pine trees per se.
Okay, so when this is done, if I can't see when I'm backing out of my driveway, who do I contact?
Mr. Nolan.
Okay, I will. Yeah,
Same number I've always had.
I think we have it.
You do.
Just a little bit.
Yes, I drive past 35th Street tonight. Every house down there, down 35th Street is parkway trees, I would guess.
Right.
No.
No? Well, then they died or you got cut
A lot of
down.
them have been taken.
Okay, because I know in my neighborhood, every tree, every house is,
Right.
one that's got 4 trees, the other one's got 2.
It's already difficult with the 3 trees that are there.
That's the trunk usually, but
They're big trees and it's difficult already. And I'm just concerned because I don't want to be the one who gets hurt.
Right.
Um,
Sideline is an issue, ma'am.
it is, it's a big concern. So please, I don't know. Just
that
realize
solid
that
fence might protect you though from the trash and everything. I mean.
I
that's a
did think about
benefit,
that.
Aside from having sightline issues that it might create, it might also protect you from the garbage and the other things. It creates a solid
Right,
area.
right. All right, I just wanted
Did
to
you go to?
ask about the buffers and I didn't realize it was a code that was required that you have such things now. So thank you very much. What about no trespassing sign at that end of the fencing? Because I know there's one down at the other end by Fisher. Can we have one so that when the kids are jumping the fence and all that, and cutting through, which happens quite a bit, that it's legit that if I call somebody and say, hey, they're jumping the fence and they're climbing in and all that, that it says it's no trespassing?
Yeah, you can, Mr. Nolan.
I'm just.
We'll put a sign up.
All right, I appreciate that because it happens quite a bit and I usually leave the kids alone. But when I see them playing on the hill that's there now, I just said, hey, they're trying to grow grass there. When I saw kids go in the garage years ago and close the door and I'm like, hey, guys, what you doing in there? I try to look out a little bit too. I know I have to be a good neighbor as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
For Stewart, 109 Fisher. The existing fence, around the outer part of the field, the Columbia and 35th, it's got zip ties, it's broken all over the place, that aluminum. Kids just bend it and climb in. The fence down on the southeast corner, the useless part of the field, I think is what Ms. Jones called it. There's Mr. Wells years ago, when I called him over there about the condition on the path to the little wooden bridge, he said, this isn't our property. I said, it is your property. So they've started to maintain it since then. I told him the kids climb the fence there all the time and the pipes are all disconnected. And he said, well, we'll fix that with the no trespassing sign. And within 24 hours, there was a BMW parked in front of the house and kids were climbing over it with their shovel to go play soccer and shovel the snow. So that doesn't really work. You could check with the police department for how many times the residents down by Fisher Street have called with sometimes whole teams in the middle of the night running around on the field. So they got spotlights out there to try to find them. They're over the fence all the time. So how you do no trespassing on one end, lock the gate, and then have a gate that even in the last few weeks has been open regularly. I don't know how you control that. And years ago, we could just, Mr. Wells had it where I could just email him and it would go to his phone. It'd be 11 o'clock at night. Can you shut the lights off? And somehow we call somebody to shut the lights off. Now you have to call the police. So, just so you know.
Thank you.
Don Gralchick, 1144 35th Street. On the fencing, I would ask that it goes to full, property line of ours, not stopping at the garage. It's, our property line does go past that. And if they would, maybe, propose an 8-foot fence versus 6-foot fence, be something great. And, yes, the concrete board, is something that is, favorable for us. Also, I asked at the last meeting if they would put some type of barrier at the end of the parking lot to protect my home, for anybody that's speeding through that parking lot to go to the entrance. That could be considered also. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak on this matter? Going once, going twice. I'm gonna close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan, any considerations since you're doing this underground work for the electrical to kind of pipe it for future for security cameras on these lights? Are you putting that in already or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This way, now that asks, you can almost look at any time to see who's in that lot with all the great technology we have nowadays.
We have pretty good security cameras, all around that area, except for this area that we haven't done, and those will be additions made.
We also use the set type standards where we work with our SROs and police to make sure we're designing it so it's, they can.
They can use it in case, right?
Yeah, I mean, trees will be trimmed, those types of things, so for safety standards. There's standards that we have to follow as a school district for the state. We'll follow.
I'm sorry, man, I closed the public hearing.
Okay.
What's the reason?
Yeah.
Ditto. All right, back to you. Let's go. What do you want to do? Talked about fencing, we talked about trees, we talked about all kind of stuff.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve PC 25005 developmental plan approval for 8823 Columbia Avenue. Obviously, we talked about town of Munster being a good neighbor, working with staff and the privacy fence along that area. The school town of Munster, sorry, I think town of Munster, we ain't paying for it, no. School town.
So are you talking about materials? Are you talking about, what are you saying?
Material wise, it's hard to put a stipulation, right, Ms. Bennett, on materials. If it meets a privacy fence in town, we would encourage you to use a maintenance-free one. We cannot dictate the materials on this commission, but we encourage you to use the one that's the best standards that meet privacy concerns of neighbors.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Ms. John seconds it. Discussion? Wow. Motion and a second, Mr. Mendoza.
Commissioner Brandon,
Dave?
Counselor Hopper,
Yes.
Commissioner Johns,
Yes.
Commissioner Rattray,
Yes.
Counselor Schinkin.
Yes.
And Commissioner Baker.
Yes. Good luck, folks. Keep it up. Please help the neighbors. All right, moving right along.
April now.
Mr. Chairman, I think of all their discussion, next meeting is June 10, 2025.
Is there anything else, hold on a second, is there anything else, from staff as it relates to things that are going on? No other business, no finding of facts, the next regular business meeting is June 10th, 2025. Mr. Rappin, you had an outstanding motion. And motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for coming and helping us make it a better place to live. Enthusiasm is overwhelming.
So new superintendent, I see. Start that search again.
You know, it's all this.